your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Welcome back. We're a couple minutes behind schedule. Vivek Ramaswamy is here. He knows how much you value your time. He'd like to talk to you for a few minutes before the debate so that we can really dig in the debate. It's going to be a short but spicy talk, and I think we should let him do it. Vivek Ramaswamy is an American business leader, New York Times best-selling author, and former top 2024 Republican U.S. presidential candidate. He was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, after which he attended Harvard for college, where he was known for moonlighting as a libertarian rapper. Vivek cast his first vote for president in 2004 for Michael Badnarik, the Libertarian nominee, a fact that he was criticized heavily for during the Republican primary. Vivek often quoted Hayek and Mises on the campaign trail, and his signature campaign issue was shutting down the regulatory state. He has founded multiple multi-billion-dollar companies and is an unapologetic defender of capitalism. In 2022, he founded Strive, a financial services firm. That is amazing, and my phone just died. Without further ado, let's welcome Vivek Ramaswamy to the stage.
Love you guys. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. I got to tell you that libertarian rapper career, my stage name used to be Vivek. I don't know. You want a sense for how well that worked out? I took the next logical step after being a successful rapper, which was becoming an analyst at a biotech-focused hedge fund, where I worked for 7 years. So it was a short-lived career, but it was good. I will say I am probably unique amongst candidates who have run for the Republican nomination for U.S. president, in that I have voted as many times for a libertarian for U.S. president as I have for a Republican. And well, look, I'll take this off here. I'd like to hold this mic. It's a very formal podium for a libertarian conference here. Things have changed around here, I think. The truth is, I've been skeptical of both major political parties for a long time. Republican Party, Democratic Party. I'm skeptical of many third parties, and I'll get to that in a second as well. I'm skeptical of the modern Democratic Party. Let's start with that. The reasons for that are obvious. The conventional wisdom is the current Democratic Party is a socialist party. I don't think so. I think it's increasingly leaning in a Marxist direction. Teaching people that your identity is based on your race, your gender, your sexuality, the attributes you inherit on the day you're born, riding the tectonic plates of group identity in an invisible power relationship with every other human being, and that we have to correct for those power relationships in the name of equity. A party that in the name of diversity has sacrificed now true diversity of thought. A party that in the name of equity has sacrificed true equality of opportunity. A party that in the name of inclusion has created a culture of exclusion where certain points of view just aren't welcome. Now weaponizing the justice system to go after their own political opponents. No, that's not in any sense a Democratic Party that stands for democratic principles. It is increasingly a tyrannical vehicle for advancing Marxist policies in the United States of America. So yes, I am skeptical of the Democratic Party. But I will also tell you, I'll take that. That sounds good. Because it's important. We're going to call out everybody here. What was the old Ron Paul quote? Truth is treason in their empire of lies. That's the modern Democratic Party. And truth is treason today, but we're going to speak the truth and commit treason of truth right here in Washington, D.C. I have also been a longtime skeptic of the establishment wing of the Republican Party. Think about the party that led us into war in Iraq in 2004. It wasn't really the Democrats. It was the Republicans in the wake of 9/11. I was against it at the time, as I am today. Look at the party that not only give us the crony capitalist conditions for the 2008 financial crisis. People miss this. This was not greed that caused the 2008 financial crisis. This was government-ordained policy that created the financial crisis, from the actions of the U.S. Federal Reserve to raining money from on high like manna from heaven, That's what gave us the '08 financial crisis. And by the way, I didn't tell you my own story here. My parents came to this country 40 years ago with no money. You know what? When I graduated from college, I didn't make any bones or apologize for it. I did not focus on anything else other than winning through the system of free market capitalism. So I joined a hedge fund in '08. Bad year to get a job in New York City, turns out. But we saw what happened. Even worse than the lead up to that financial crisis was actually the bailouts using our own taxpayer money to bail out financial institutions that made well for themselves when times were good, but expected the taxpayer to bail them out when the times went bad. Yet who did it? It wasn't the Democratic Party. It was the same party that led us into the Iraq War. It was the same party that had actually supported many of the policies that gave us that crisis, including a U.S. Federal Reserve policy in the first place, that then bailed out those same financial institutions. So yes, I am also skeptical of a long-standing tradition in the Republican Party to engage in crony capitalism as well. And we're going to come back to this because I worry that that ghost of Dick Cheney is trying to resuscitate itself in certain corridors of the modern Republican Party. So I'm skeptical of the Democratic Party. I'm skeptical of the historical establishment wing of the Republican Party. I know you all heard from RFK Jr. earlier today. And I'm just going to be calling it out like I see it across the board, 360 degrees here. I respect his commitment to medical freedom, something that many of you in this room share as well. I will first acknowledge that. Got to respect somebody who stands for actual medical freedom. But RFK Jr. is in no sense a libertarian in any meaningful sense of the word. I mean, the fact is, you cannot say you support free speech in this country if you also have, even in the past, advocating for imprisoning those who have spread climate disinformation. The Second Amendment is not a recommendation, it is a right. And I'm going to say this, call it like it is. I am proud to be not only the only Republican candidate who came to PorcFest this year, but also to be the only presidential candidate of any party that did not require people to disabuse themselves of their Second Amendment rights in order to enter those grounds either. And I don't think that you're a libertarian if you behave like the other side. I'm glad he's skeptical of the government narrative on vaccines, but he's completely imbibing the government narrative on climate change. I'm glad that he supports actual medical independence, but the fact of the matter is somebody cannot oppose nuclear energy in this country and support an expansion of the regulatory state on grounds of environmentalism or consumer protection and in any way pose as a libertarian. It's just a fact of the matter. So I don't really bend the knee to one particular political party or another. Democrat Party, Republican Party. I respect some elements of what everybody has to say in respecting freedom, but RFK is in no sense a libertarian either. But I want to actually call out not everybody else who isn't in this room, but to ask a hard question to this room. Because I think the Republican Party, I have said this, is at a crossroads. I'll say a word about this, but they're not going to come to this room. The Republican Party's at a crossroads. We face a choice. Right now, it is a choice, a fork in the road in the conservative movement between resuscitating that ghost of Dick Cheney, reviving a post-9/11 surveillance state. Back then it was the Patriot Act. Today what is it? It is the expansion. It's not the renewal of FISA 702. It is the expansion of FISA 702. That's what Republicans are rooting for by large numbers today. The same party that took us into the Iraq War is now forking over more of your own taxpayer dollars to Ukraine. So one fork in the road for the Republican Party is to go the way of Dick Cheney of the past. Yet the other path that's now emerging as the fork in the road is to go in favor of what they will call industrial policy, but what increasingly looks and smells like a right-wing version of a nanny state. And I don't support that either. The right answer there is none of the above. What is the right answer? The right answer has to do with the people who are in this room. That's the right answer. It's a false choice between the new crony capitalism, the new right-wing nanny state alternative to the left-wing nanny state. I say no to that. I also say no to the Dick Cheney neoconservative vision of yesterday. But the right path forward, and that's why I'm here today. That's why I'm here today actually has to do with those of you who are in this room right now. Because you too face a fork in the road. There's a hard question for this party right here to ask itself, the Libertarian Party, which is, what is your goal in 2024? Why are we here? Is it to seek out another best case scenario, Speaking hard truth, 360 degrees. I can't do it I'm not going to stop doing it now. Is it to get 3% as a stretch goal, which would be a great outcome for the Libertarian Party compared to 1% of the last time around? Is that the goal? And to call that a victory and to move on? Or is it to actually take the freedom-centric ideals that those of us in this room share deeply in common and to actually translate that into action? By working and influencing and having a seat at the front of the table of the next administration. That's the question for you to ask yourself. I'm not telling you what the answer is. But the question is, you don't owe me an answer. Nobody owes me an answer. I'm a guest and I'm glad to be here. But the question is, do you want to get 3% or shoot for that as a stretch goal, or do you actually want to change this country by working together? And I will tell you this, I'm speaking to you as a libertarian at my own core. I have gotten to know Donald Trump over the course of the last several years and the last several months. And you're going to hear from him tomorrow night. And the question is, do you want to influence the next administration or don't you? That is the question for this room to ask. And my thesis for you, you believe it? You all get to speak your mind. I respect that. Libertarians in the room got to speak up. But now the question is, how do you get it done? I believe the future of this country depends on a libertarian nationalist alliance that will save this country. That's what I believe is required. And my challenge to you is, how do we work together to actually restore free speech in this country? So you get to speak your mind as long as I get to in return. How do we actually restore religious liberty in this country? So you are free to worship if you wish to worship how you want in this country. How do we work together to restore the actual Second Amendment, not as a recommendation, but as a right in this country? How do we put an end to a central bank digital currency once and for all in the United States? How do we end the Federal Reserve's failed policies and bring competition to the dollar in the United States of America? No, I love it. How do we shut down the three-letter agencies that populate this infested cities in Washington, D.C.? We're not just reforming it. You cannot reform that beast. You want to get serious, get in there and shut it down. Shut down the FBI. Shut down the ATF. Shut down the CDC. Shut down the U.S. Department of Education. Fire 75% of the federal bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., and send them home packing because they never should have had that job in the first place. Rescind every unconstitutional federal regulation that Congress never passed. SEC to FTC to FDA to TSA. I call that 1,000 standing around, by the way. God knows what. Shut it down. So the question is, how do we work together to actually make possible in this country what we have not yet achieved? How do we revive who we are, the Constitution of 1789, the Revolution of 1776? I am sick and tired of standing around here complaining about it, but what I wish to do is to translate this vision into action, because that's what our founding fathers did 250 years ago. You don't get this without making a sacrifice. It's easy to pat yourself on the back and say you say the right things, but if you want to translate it to action, this is our moment to do it. You want to end foreign wars? Great. End foreign aid to every other country around the world that doesn't advance U.S. taxpayer interests. Flatten the tax code while we're at it. Exit the UN. Stop funding the WHO. This is within reach, my friends. And everything I'm telling you, this isn't new for tonight. This is what I've been saying for the last year across the presidential campaign trail. But how do we translate vision to reality? Are we people of words or are we people of action? That is the question before us right now. Well, who's going to get it done? That's the question for you to ask yourself. You don't owe me an answer to that question. You owe yourselves and this country an answer to that question. And I'll tell you this, 2 core principles going forward in this country. The people we elect to run the government should be the ones who actually run the government, not the shadow government in Washington, D.C. And the sole moral duty that those leaders owe, the only moral duty of a U.S. elected leader, is to a U.S. citizen right here at home. Not somebody else halfway around the world, right here at home in our own country. It's not too much to ask. It's not a black idea or a white idea or a Democrat idea or a Republican idea. These are American ideals that we secured in 1776. And I think we live in a 1776 moment right now. And I've come here today to tell you, from one former libertarian rapper to an audience of libertarians here with us today, let us move from words to action. Let us actually take the policies that you and I care about and turn them into reality and have a front seat to make sure we get it done. And if I have anything to do with it, I believe many people in this room should be advising, if not directly involved, in the next administration of the United States of America. That's why I'm here today. So do what is right for America, fight for our Constitution, make George Washington proud, make Mises proud, make Hayek proud. That's how we make America great again. That's why I'm here tonight, and I'm looking forward to talking to my friends Dave Smith and Clint Russell. Let's get them out here. Thank you, guys. God bless you and your party, and may God bless our United States of America. Let's actually get the job done. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. You said it. Who said that? Free Ross. Pardon Assange. And Snowden deserves to come home. That much we agree on. I said it on day one of the campaign. And if we have anything to do with it, just met Gabriel, Julian's brother. That man should not be in a foreign prison. That's what it means to be free. And by the way, every peaceful January 6th protester deserves a pardon, along with every one of those protesters on day one in this country. That's what it means to stand for one standard of the rule of law in America. Thank you, guys. Couldn't leave that out. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Your guide to the truth. The new AmericanMedia.com.